So, the Dragon Isles. This is the newest and apparently one of the larger continents of Azeroth that lay hidden for over 10,000 years. The magic was drained, the dragon aspects abandoned it, and now something big, some event triggered the awakening of this ancient land, which subsequently triggered the return of the dragons to their original homeland. As the Isles are full of life energy, could this be the place where Azeroth is supposed to awaken? Could this be the gateway? The Sundering drained the energy, while now it has returned, as maybe Azeroth is supposed to awaken after all this time. So what could be the reason for this ancient continent returning all of a sudden? As someone that spends a long time in front of a screen, it can really strain out your eyes and affect your sleep. Now, GNG Performance, the sponsor of this video, sent me these glasses, and pretty much I just placed them near the desk, and when I feel my eyes getting really tired, I can just put them on, and it immediately makes them relax. Now, if you use my link in the description for the next 48 hours, you will get a 25% discount, so check out GNG Performance. Despite the new continent, the Dragon Isles actually have a long history in the Warcraft universe. Originally, they were supposed to be added somewhere close to Quotalas with a massive old god structure, but that was scrapped, and as you can see, they completely changed the concept of this land. I'm guessing they started closing in on this sometime around BFA, as that was when we learned more about the Dragon Isles, more as like a legend, a myth of a place, but we didn't really know the location or whether this even really existed. Then we knew Vratian, the son of Deathwing, was on the search for these lands, but it also seemed like more of a myth than anything real, anything that actually exists. Well, guess what? Vratian really was onto something, as we just learned the Dragon Isles are in fact real and they are big. Turns out these lands are located northeast of the known as Rothian landmass, and they are apparently a massive continent. I think calling them isles is ridiculous, as this is more likely a land around the size of Northrend or Pandaria, or as Blizzard promised, possibly even bigger. They told us that these will be the largest zones ever, one of them being the largest they have ever worked on in the history of World of Warcraft, and really it makes sense when you think about it. These are the Dragon Isles. You know how big dragons are, and you know what dragons do, they fly. So these lands need to make sense as their home. This means that more than likely this continent will actually be gigantic. There will be some sort of vastness to these areas. However, the size of the landmass isn't really all that important. It is the actual connection and the significance of this land, because it seems like the Dragon Isles are not just some random island that you can just reach on Azeroth, but some sort of an enchanted land with primal elemental magic and the life energies of Azeroth. It was said that the place used to be the broodlands and ultimately the center of their civilization when Azeroth was young. Now, we don't know if they originated from this place, but we know for a fact that when the dragon aspects are empowered by the Titan Keepers after defeating Galakrond, Tyr personally helped them together with the Titanforge to establish their big civilization, to create Tyr's Hold and that massive beacon that you have seen in the newest cinematic. Now, there are two important things that we need to consider. First is that apparently the Isles are filled with elemental magic and life energies of Azeroth. If you remember from the Chronicle, the actual lore, elementals are actually natives to many planets, and their activities heavily depend on the world they are inhabiting. For example, Spirit was plentiful on Draenor, so the elementals were very calm on this planet, while Azeroth's World Soul was insanely powerful, and it still is, and it consumed a ton of Spirit. Therefore, the elementals were beyond chaotic, and they just constantly waged war on each other. Well, guess what? Maybe this spirit that Azeroth consumed could originate from this exact place. It is obviously hinted that there is some sort of significant source of power on this land, and I would say the Titans purposefully built their facilities there and got the dragons to settle their civilization in this place out of every other place on Azeroth. Now, at the moment, we can only speculate, of course, but I'm guessing this spirit that we learned about in the Chronicle is related to Azerite, the blood of the World Soul, and the soul of Azeroth in general. Something big that is related to the power of Azeroth is hidden beneath these lands, and this is why the Titan Keepers decided to settle the dragons there to protect it, as they proved themselves very useful against Galakrond, a massive threat no one could really defeat. This might even add some context. It might be the reason why Odin was originally so much against it. Maybe he didn't trust the dragons with such an important task, and he believed that they would be corrupted. which ended up being the case with Dead. Well, this point at the moment is blank, but it is obvious that this will be the focus of the expansion. More than likely will be related to the ultimate villain of the expansion, and the reason the dragon aspects even returned. But let's go into the topic of the actual video. Why did the Dragon Isles suddenly go into hiding and they just completely disappeared off the face of the planet? As we had seen in the schematic, this all happened 10,000 years ago with the Burning Legion invasion and the Sundering. Now, the Sundering was a massive event. The Well of Eternity exploded and it completely reshaped Azeroth and no doubt significantly damaged the world soul. Now, if you remember, Well of Eternity was a wound of Azeroth that remained in the form of a massive, powerful source of energy. Well, when the explosion happened, suddenly all the magic drained away from the Dragon Isles and the dragons were forced to leave their homeland and to leave the Titan Watchers to stand dormant, and through that massive beacon to hide away the isles from outsiders and even from themselves, only to light it up later on when the power is returned so that the beacon can now guide them. Now, I have a bit of a crazy theory that I think is really interesting, so just hear me out. What if the place is like the place where Azeroth is supposed to be born? Like, this is why it is so potent, and this is why the Titan Keepers put the massive and scary dragons to look over the most sacred place on the planet. Now, Azeroth was getting close to getting born, but when the explosion happened, it nearly killed the world soul and therefore just completely reset this process to zero. Blizzard told us that as Azeroth continues to awaken, her primal forces manifested on the Isles again, therefore magic returned and the dragons returned with the magic as well. Since the Jailer, Mass Presented Mortis, the drill, and all the crazy stuff happening with the Azeroth's world soul, maybe after all this time, it is finally the timing for Azeroth to actually awaken. This is why the dragons returned to aid us in this exact process. This could have also been their actual ancient purpose. Sure, they were the defenders of Azeroth, but more like the defenders of the gateway for the world soul to come into the universe or into the world. I know this sounds a bit outlandish and ridiculous, but I gotta say, it makes sense when you think about it. It has long been hinted that it is time for Azeroth to awaken or to finally do something, and we have been fiddling with this world soul stuff pretty much since Legion. Now, Azeroth is important overall on a cosmological scale. Obviously, Jailer used its power to try to reset the universe itself. The Void wants to create its own Dark Titan. The Burning Legion wanted to destroy it. So what if now, when the gateway is set, some of these forces do want to return? Or what if the awakening of Azeroth has some really big impact on the universe as a whole? Maybe this could be the universe has to be united for what is to come, as the Jailer told us at the end of the Sepulchre of the First Ones. Maybe we will find some First One architecture in the Dragon Isles. Who really knows at this point? What is clear though at this current time is that the Sundering and the destruction of the Well of Eternity caused this ancient continent to completely disappear, and keep in mind, to not just be cloaked akin to Pandaria, but to completely lay dormant as if frozen in time, and now something caused the magics to return once again 10,000 years later. It is almost certain that this something is related to the recent happenings. If you observe the cinematic, there was this blue yellowish energy in the water when the Titan Watchers came to life, which all of you may be familiar with this point, and that is Azeroth. Now, of course, it wasn't confirmed that this was Azeroth, but if it is, some crazy things could actually be happening throughout this new expansion. As a reminder, if you use the link in the description for the next 48 hours, you'll get a 25% discount on GMG Performance glasses.